So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy Friday. I think we should have another Halloween Horror Nights chat. So with my trip vlogs being completed for the foreseeable future and currently having no plans to travel again until possibly Halloween Horror Nights, my Halloween Horror Nights chat videos will be moving to Friday since I have no other videos to go there anymore. Still planning to do every other week videos, but they will be on Friday for the foreseeable future. So I hope you guys didn't miss me too much this past Wednesday, just delayed it a couple days. So in my last video, I said we might discuss Legendary Truth in today's video, but I've decided to hold that off for a little longer because that one does take a lot of research and I've had a busy week. So this week we're going to talk about anniversary houses. With Halloween Horror Nights 30 being an anniversary year, we're expecting to see some sort of anniversary house. On the rumors maps, we saw that it might have something to do with Cary, Ohio. It might have something to do with Legendary Truth, but either way, anniversary houses are a modern tradition at Halloween Horror Nights and something that we've seen at Halloween Horror Nights 20 and Halloween Horror Nights 25. So today I'm going to talk about those two houses and also share my top 5 houses that I would like to see represented in an anniversary house at Halloween Horror Nights 30. So first up, let's review the houses from 20 and 25. At Halloween Horror Nights 20, we had the Hallowed Past, which I actually found a link to a lights on walkthrough with Mike Aiello. There's no scare actors in it. It's just a walkthrough. See all the different sets that were included in the house if you didn't get to experience it yourself. This house had a warehouse feel for the beginning of it, where you walked in and it was full of props from past years of Halloween Horror Nights. So they actually dug through their own archives and brought out a ton of props and artwork from the previous years, and it was full of Easter eggs for fans. After you went through the warehouse, you got to see the Treeks and Foons, which were a scare zone in 2002. We saw the Alice in Wonderland scene from Scary Tales in 2008. We saw a scene from Dead Exposure from 2008. We went into the Frightanic from 1998, a blast from the past. We saw the Body Collector's spine rip scene from 2005/2008. And then we finished back in the warehouse with more props and the icons. So Jack, storyteller, caretaker, the director. Was the usher in here? It was the year after him. I can't remember if he was in there or not. Comment down below if you know. So Hallowed Past was kind of all over the place as far as years, but obviously concentrated on 2008 because that was really one of the best years of Horror Nights. So there's a lot of material to pull from that year. It was in the parade building, so it was a normal length house. So they only had so many scenes to use, so they could only pick so many properties. But I think it was overall a really good house. I really enjoyed it. I got to see a bunch of scenes from 2008 that I hadn't got to experience, which was great for me. It was definitely a great tribute to the fans. Then in 2005, we have the mega anniversary house. I mean, as a fan, Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem was just so much fun as a fan. It was a huge house. It was a mega house. So there were a ton of scenes, which you'll see when I list through all these. I will try to find a link to a walkthrough. I'm sure there is one from 25 and I will link one here so you can go through the house if you didn't get to experience it yourself. We went through a ton of fan favorite houses, and of course we had HHN Bear, who became famous from this house. Bear, 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 bear. Miss you. So without further ado, here were the scenes. We started with The Hollow from 2008, Scary Tales 2008, which was the bear scene, The Forsaken from 2011, Dead End 2012, Legendary Truth, The Wyandotte Estate from 2010, House of Horrors from 2012, Castle Vampire from 2004, which I didn't realize that was Castle Vampire until I did the research for this video. I thought it was from the Dracula house from 2009. I didn't get to do Castle Vampire obviously in 2004, so I didn't recognize it, and I thought it was the scene from the Dracula Brides from 2009. You'll learn something new every day. Then we had Gothic from 2012, Nightingales 2011, Havoc 2010, Psychoscarapy Home for the Holidays, one of my personal favorites, from 2007, and Leave It to Cleaver from 2009. So as you can tell from that list, mega house, so they were able to fit a whole lot more than they were in the house at 20. You also may notice from both of those that for anniversary houses, they focus on originals. And I don't know if that's because of the property rights, that it's hard to get property rights for multiple IPs and put them all in a house together, or if it's just because they know the anniversary houses are catering to the fans, they know we're the ones that care about this kind of stuff, and so they focus on the originals. Not sure, but either way, I appreciate the fact that the anniversary houses, you know you're gonna get a ton of originals. So I did keep that in mind while making my list. So my list is all originals, because that's what we expect to see in an anniversary house. There have been some great IP houses in recent years. I can't deny that, even though I'm not an IP fan in general. For a purpose of an anniversary house, we're sticking to originals. So here's my top 5 houses I would like to see represented at HHN30. So we're gonna start at 5, work our way up to 1, and then I have some honorable mentions at the end. So first up, at number 5, we have Ghost Town. Now, I think that might be a surprising choice for some people because I haven't really raved about Ghost Town in the years since 2016. However, I like this as a choice because it was originally a house in 2004 and it came back as a requel in 2016. And so you're representing 2 years of Halloween Horror Nights in an anniversary house. Who doesn't want to go through the house and hear "that's my gold" again, right? Like, it's like a classic Horror Nights line. It's something that the fans latched onto. I think there are scenes that could absolutely be featured in an anniversary house, especially that giant scene where you walked in and they were having the gunfight across from you and you were in the street with all the buildings around you. That would be amazing to see again, but I do require the guy that says "that's my gold." That vocal cue has to be back again. It was a very short house in 2016, and I think that's why it slipped off my favorites list pretty quickly, just because it doesn't stand up to the test of time of other originals that have come out. In an anniversary house, I would like to see it represented. Number 4 is Yeti. Here's the catch. From the previous 2 anniversary houses I mentioned, it's clear that they don't usually include properties from the year before. I want to say this is coincidence because in both cases, the year before was very IP heavy, and so maybe they just didn't have a property they felt deserved being back immediately the year after. But I would argue that 2019 was a fantastic year for originals, and it would be a great disservice if we didn't see a Yeti scene back in this house. It's a great contrast scene compared to the other originals that are on my list. I am ready for the Yeti once again. Bring them on. Take me back to the Yukon. A year was enough to wait. I'm ready to return. I would love to see a return of the Door Yeti gag because some of the people in my party never even got to see it. So I'd love to see Door Yeti return because that was an amazing gag, and I would love to be back in the caves. Number 3 on my list is Seeds of Extinction. So this was my favorite house from 2018, and once again, a completely different scenic change from the other 2 houses I've already mentioned. I'm not quite sure which scene I would like to see the most. It would probably be the convenience store section. It even had a Lightning Gulch reference to Ghost Town, so they're all in the same universe, right? I loved the costumes from Seeds. They were unlike anything we've seen at the event before. It was a very different house, and I think it deserves to have a spot in an anniversary house. For number 2, I have Graveyard Games. Once again, a house from 2019. I think across the board, everyone can agree that Graveyard Games is one of the best houses that's been at Halloween Horror Nights in recent years, possibly ever. It was just such a great execution of a house. There were so many original scares. The scenes were amazing. The casts were amazing. It just all came together into a perfect house. So I would absolutely want to see it in an anniversary house, even though it just happened last year. I'm ready to go back through the graveyard. I would love to see a return of the smiling ghosts that were on either side. I don't know what their scene was actually called, but they were terrifying. I would love to see a return of the hallway with the creepy dolls at the end where the candles flickered. And of course, that pitch black tunnel needs to make a return because whew, that was so scary. If it's too soon for it to make an appearance at this year's anniversary house, you know that one's coming back in the future because that one was just too good to end there. And then we come to number 1, which is going to be a shock to no one, and it is Scarecrow. I'm hoping Scarecrow has an entire sequel house just devoted to it at some point. If we're doing an anniversary house with a best of, you have to have some Scarecrow scenes, because I would argue that even though when people ask me what's your favorite house, I typically say The Forsaken because I just really loved that house and loved that experience. If you ask me what I think is the best house that Halloween Horror Nights has ever done, at this point I think I would argue it was Scarecrow. As I've gotten further away from Scarecrow and experienced other originals since then, I think that my love for Scarecrow has only grown. I think it was the absolute perfect house of a combination of story, scenic, costuming, claustrophobic sets, cast, everything about it. It was the scariest house I've ever been through, the most consistent on just terrifying me every single run. I was always nervous going into it because I knew it was going to be terrifying. I absolutely want to see some Scarecrow scenes or a Scarecrow house. Totally fine with that too. But if it doesn't have its standalone location, it needs some major scenes in an anniversary house, like 3 scenes at least. Just let's go back through the cornfields. The outhouse Scarecrow is the one that got me the absolute most through the entire run. That scare was just so effective. I would love to see that back, and the finale of that house was terrifying, so I'd love to see that back again. So that's my top 5. Those are the 5 that actually made the cut, and there's still plenty of space for more than 5 properties. So these are the other houses I would love to see represented. They just didn't make my list, and I'll explain why. So first up, we have Nightingale's Blood Pit. I'm sure some of you expected that to be on my top 5 list, and here's my reason that it's not. I loved the house last year. You guys know it's probably my favorite experience of Horror Nights in a long time. I loved it, but my experience was mainly due to the cast and not so much the house itself. So while I would still love to see my favorite murder chickens back in action again and just have the nostalgia of seeing the costumes again, I know that it would most likely be disappointing because it's not the cast members who made the house so great. And I would still interact with them and hope to have some new murder chicken friends, but I know ultimately probably would be disappointing. Next up, we have Depths of Fear. Again, another house from 2019 I'd love to see again. However, highly doubtful they would bring them back because they had so many issues with the costumes, and of course the giant fish boys are the ones I would want to see, and those costumes created so many issues throughout the run, I don't think they'll ever bring them back. Next up, I have Dead Waters, which was a fantastic house in 2017. In fact, originally I think I had it on the top of my list above Scarecrow because it was so scenic, and then I realized I was being stupid, and by far Scarecrow was better. Dead Waters was a beautiful scenic house. Would love to see that return. Pulling from farther back than the past 5 years, I went to Winter's Night from 2011. We haven't seen this house return. It was a gorgeous scenic house. However, I have a feeling it's too similar to Graveyard Games to both be in the anniversary house because it would just be too confusing for people. They probably wouldn't know the difference between Winter's Night and Graveyard Games, so probably won't be featured. Tomb of the Ancients. Tomb of the Ancients started to set the bar high for scares and the tent houses, and then Scarecrow happened and it kind of just stole its thunder. But Tomb was fantastic. I would love to see the return of Croco Lion. Once again, in what appears to be the scariest tent location, we have Dollhouse of the Damned. Super creepy house, very different than everything else I've listed, so it would be a good addition, just as long as they don't include the baby poop smell, because that was terrible. You guys were complaining about the Nightingale smell this past year, but I think the baby poop smell at Dollhouse was way worse. And then the last one I have on my list is Catacombs from 2010. I mentioned this in my previous video, and the reason why we definitely won't see it in an anniversary house is because it's way too close to the real life events that are happening right now because it's based on a plague and plague doctors. I would have loved to see it in the anniversary house without all of this happening because it was a fantastic house and the costumes are so scary, but obviously I know it's not going to happen. It's on my honorable mentions for unrealistic, but I wish it could be there. Okay guys, so that's my list. That's my top 5 houses I would like to see in an anniversary house at Halloween Horror Nights 30. Go ahead and leave me a comment down below and let me know what 5 houses you would like to see return for Halloween Horror Nights 30. I do plan to return with a video on Legendary Truth 2 weeks from now. In fact, I've been collecting goodies for that video. I've got some stuff to share with you guys from Legendary Truth in my next video, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't already for all your Halloween Horror Nights news, chats, history, and eventually, fingers crossed, vlogs this fall. So stay safe, stay spoopy, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.